name is Kenah. I'm the executive director here at Atlanta Track Club. Actually, I shouldn't say here. We're here at Leeds headquarters, which we'll touch on in a second. But to start out, I start out all of our Common Ground conversations with a bit of a summary. So Atlanta Track Club is a 55-year-old nonprofit, mission-focused. The vision is to make Atlanta healthier through running and walking. We are nonpartisan, apolitical, and in our history, we've never strayed from conversations on running. This spring changed that when Ahmaud Arbery was killed. He was killed while he was running. That gave Atlanta Track Club an opportunity to enter into a conversation about rooting out racism in track and field, in running, and in cross country. So that's how we ended up in our Common Ground initiative. And I want to thank you, Kelli and C.J, for sitting with us today. And I think a great starting point, if you guys don't mind, is if you could explain to me and our listeners your professional, your personal background, as well as your organization, L.E.A.D.
So, you go first.
So I'm C.J. Stewart. I'm the CEO and co-founder of L.E.A.D, Launch Expose Advise Direct. I was born here in Atlanta, 1976. I'm a Grady baby. I'm a proud son of this city, especially in light of all the great things that have happened through Atlanta with the civil rights movement, as well as a lot of our amazing corporate companies that are able to touch the world from right here in Atlanta. I got my foundation education at Atlanta Public Schools, went to Grove Park Elementary School, and still remember my bus number 367.
And he had perfect attendance.
Did you really?
I had perfect attendance. My mom.
You still have the certificate for that?
You know, my mom still has it, but I need to get it so that way I can post it in here. That is a bragging right.
Not in perfect attendance. What was K
through 12.
Yeah.
K through 12, and
Wow. So you're the Cal Ripken of APS.
Right.
Exactly. That was good. That
is good. So even though my mom and dad were both very young parents, financially, we didn't have a lot, but I mean, they've always been hardworking and instilled those values in me. I mean, I saw us go from starting out in financial poverty, going to working class, and now both of my parents are living a comfortable middle class life. And so I got a chance to experience those things. But one thing my mom made sure was I was going to school. So she had to do everything she could to make sure I didn't get sick, because you were going to school regardless. And so that's one of the things that even helps me today personally as our CEO, is to make sure that I show up. You know, attendance is a very important thing to us. Baseball was my ticket. Out of the circumstances that I was raised in, it was what I saw being the gateway to living a prosperous and significant life, and it worked. And so just those values that I learned through baseball, I got an opportunity to graduate from Westlake High School, went on to Georgia State University, played at DeKalb College, and then was drafted a second time by the Chicago Cubs. Played in the Cubs organization and had a great time, but really struggled, because it wasn't just enough to have talent, but you had to have some very strong core values in order to convert that talent to skills. But along the way, met this amazing woman here, Kelli, in 97 and 96.
Oh, you almost messed up. I was like
1996.
Yes.
We got married. We got married in 97.
There you go.
And so, when I saw Kelli, I mean, I really saw even more into my future of all the things that I could become. And I didn't see exactly being able to have a successful for-profit business and a nonprofit business, but I've just been able to do so many amazing things and grow as a person with my beautiful wife.
I'm Kelli Stewart, his beautiful wife. I am the co-founder and COO of L.E.A.D. I was born in Atlanta, so I'm not a Grady baby. I was born at Georgia Baptist. And my parents got divorced when I was very young, about 5 years old. So I moved to the country with my grandmother, Oglethorpe County, right outside of Athens. Go Dogs. And had a great life. I grew up on a farm, basically. I mean, we used to plant vegetables. I know how to plow a field. I mean, I'm a country girl. And my roots are that of being in the country and being a part of a strong community. So I grew up in poverty as well. I mean, it's funny because sometimes you don't know that because it seems like you have everything that you need. We didn't have a whole lot. I didn't get a lot of everything that I wanted, but I felt like I had everything that I needed. My grandmother was a great provider, and I didn't play any sports. ROTC was my thing. I was in ROTC all 4 years, and it taught me a lot of discipline. Taught me a lot about just making sure that you take care of your unit, that type of mentality, and having to do inspections and making sure your uniforms are right. So I gained a lot of discipline in that respect from ROTC. When I met CJ in '96, I knew nothing about baseball really. And really when he told me he played baseball, professional baseball, I thought he was really trying to run a game on me or something. Like,
Trying to impress you?
yeah, I was like, I haven't seen you on television. Like, what does that mean? I knew nothing about the minor leagues and that whole system. So it's really been a learning experience for me on this journey with him about baseball and just, the tremendous opportunities and learning experiences that the game can teach about life.
Yeah, well said. And we'll get back to L.E.A.D in a second.
Okay.
About a year or so ago, we met and we talked about L.E.A.D and Atlanta Track Club and our commitment to the next generation Atlantan. And we convinced, we cajoled, we pushed CJ to become a runner. You weren't a runner at the time. Do you consider yourself a runner now?
I do. I mean, and I say that because, there are some mornings where, my phone will buzz and I'll get a text message and Kelly's like, who is that? I mean, because it's usually around 6 o'clock, but I get it from the Atlanta Track Club where it gives me my daily workouts. And I'm committed to doing it because I'm really just looking forward to November and being able to run in my first Peachtree Road race. But I understand that that's not something I can just show up to. I mean, I've got to make sure that I'm prepared. One of the things that really was a struggle for me prior to being committed to the Peachtree Road race and the training was, when you're running, I mean, you're with yourself. And, it's a long run. And I realized, I mean, there were times I was just kind of running from those self-conversations that I needed to have with myself that I'm actually now having. I mean, I've come up with some great ideas now that I'm able to get out, run, and just the overall discipline because I didn't like running whatsoever. It was just boring. And so when I define discipline, I'm thinking about doing things that I need to do that I don't want to do. So every day that I go out and I run to prepare, I'm becoming more and more disciplined, which allows me to even have it carry over into our household, but even also in my day-to-day coaching with L.E.A.D.
What position did you play?
Played outfield, so no long distance running, very short burst.
But you spend a lot of time thinking when you're in the outfield, right? I mean, you've got a lot of time, much like you're running. You're in your own head.
Yeah, I mean, and the crazy thing is at the professional level, you got fans behind you that's in your head as well. I mean, that's a part of the game. And so those are some of the things that I just even, think about even now when I'm preparing myself mentally to go work out on days that I don't want to, especially on days when it rains, because I even told myself one day, I said, I'm not going to run because it's raining, but I think I got an email from Amy that was saying, on days that it's raining, it's good to go run as well because you never know if it's going to be raining on the Peachtree Road race. I'm like, dang.
My coach used to say, your skin is waterproof.
That's true.
That's true. That's true.
So we're sitting on these benches, and we've talked about this. These are recycled plastic water bottles from the Peachtree. And we built this initiative, Common Ground, to have a conversation about race. So I think a good jumping off point would be that term, common ground. When you guys hear common ground, how does that hit you? What do you think about? What does it mean to you?
Common ground to me means being inclusive, It means something that's shared relative to the word race. It means finding out those things that bring us together so that we can understand more about the things that make us different. But starting with common ground, I feel like makes it easier to tackle those things that tend to divide us.
Well said.
When I think about common ground, I think about, I recently received a systems thinking certification from Cornell University. And, the fundamentals of systems thinking starts with distinctions. And so when you think about race, there's a distinction between black and white. The second fundamental is to break things down into part whole, so systematize it. So when you think about black and white, then you can categorize the plight and the life of the different races, black and white. Then the third fundamental is the relationships, which is really a powerful thing when I start thinking about common ground, because once you break those, the factors of the differences in race, now we can connect them relationship, but we got to first separate them so we can see the differences. And then the last fundamental is perspective. So now we get an opportunity to hear each other's perspective, but we got to first acknowledge the fact that there is a difference. And the difference doesn't mean that one is better. But being here in this country, there's a different way of living for black people and white people, and we can come together by first just realizing that there is a difference. So when I think about common ground, I'm just thinking about the fact that there are many ways that we can get connected, and sports has been something that's allowed me to connect with different people.
And in the conversations that we've had over the last year, I felt almost immediately that we had some common ground in terms of our interest in kids and using sport to point them in the right direction, which is a nice segue into LEAD. Can you give us a summary of LEAD's mission?
So LEAD's mission is to empower an at-risk generation to lead and transform their city of Atlanta and we do that by using the sport of baseball to teach black boys how to overcome crime, poverty, and racism. So that's our mission. Our vision is to develop our boys and young men into ambassadors who will lead Atlanta to lead the world, because we know you can lead the world from the city of Atlanta.
So what is it about baseball that lends itself to your mission? Is there something about the game of baseball, the team aspect of it, that pulls your mission and vision together? Or is it just something that CJ, you were passionate about and you married into?
So I'll start, since I don't have a childhood history with the game. What I've been able to learn is the connection that we have starts with, I think origin stories matter. So we have to start with just what our boys have to go through on a daily basis just to live. They live in a world where, as a black male, they have a 1 in 3 chance of being entangled in the criminal justice system.
And are you talking about nationally or in Atlanta?
I'm talking about nationally.
Okay.
There's a 1 in 3 chance. So we're talking about they live in a world that is designed for them not to succeed. And on some levels, that is set up for them to end up in prison, to end up to dying early, to end up having these horrible experiences. So, those failures can weigh heavy on you, day to day. When you bring it to a local level, Atlanta has one of the worst income inequality situations between the races, black and white, in the nation. Our pre-COVID unemployment rate here was 25%. So that's, who knows? I haven't seen any stats on what that is right now. So, our boys are growing up in a pretty unstable situation. So you have to learn how to process all of these failures that are happening around you, that you've seen generationally happen around you. And, that's hard to do. That's why it's so easy for people to give up sometimes, because it's like, you know what? My grandmother, my mom, now me, all these negative things have happened in my family because we've grown up in generational poverty. That's going to be my fate too. What I love about baseball is that it teaches our boys how to deal with failure, how to see failure more as feedback instead of as your final destination, how to see that failure as feedback and then formulate a plan to do something different, to make adjustments and get a better result the next time.
So fail forward.
Fail forward.
Got it.
So, when I think about baseball as well as the origin stories, and I think about Jackie Robinson, World War II allowed black soldiers to go fight abroad issues that were happening in other countries. Meanwhile, here in the United States of America, we were still in this seemingly unwinnable battle with regards to racism. So here you have black soldiers that are fighting, but yet still dealing with racism in America. And I would argue just from my studies that Jackie Robinson being allowed to integrate Major League Baseball was an outward expression that America isn't racist. So here we have a black man that's a part of America's favorite pastime. So baseball, I still argue, is America's favorite pastime. I know track is awesome. But, so that was intentionally done. The Negro Leagues, even right now in 2020, this is the 100-year anniversary of the Negro Leagues. And during its heyday, the Negro Leagues was one of the top black-owned businesses. And you think about baseball, and at least from the photos and images that I've seen, black people were dressed to the nine. So, in addition to the games, you had clothing, you had wardrobe, you had food, you had hotels. Baseball was a very profitable business, and not just for the benefit of the black community, but the white community. So night games were invented in the Negro Leagues. So at any given time, black baseball players in the Negro Leagues were playing in front of white fans in the daytime, black fans at night, and vice versa. So there was a lot of money being made. And the fact that they were able to play so often, they were able to get good and sustain that. So I would argue that the Negro Leagues was a better product than the Major Leagues. I would also argue that the Negro Leagues saved Major League Baseball. Even today, the batting helmet that we use in the Major Leagues was invented in the Negro Leagues. Shin guards that are used in the Major Leagues were invented in the Negro Leagues. So for me as a kid, I remember around 1984, the Cubs won the division. So back then you had the Superstation in Chicago and in Atlanta. WGN would broadcast the Cubs games in the daytime. So I remember in the summer getting a chance to watch them and watching Gary Matthews, the Sarge, and I fell in love with baseball. I would finish watching the games, I would go outside and I would hit rocks. I got so good at one point where I could actually hit a rock and bust a window. Across the way, I got in trouble for that, but I used my speed and I ran away. But I remember my aunts and uncles and even my parents just saying, okay, we need to get him involved with some organized sports. I lived in Northwest Atlanta, but my grandparents lived in Southwest Atlanta, and so that was a blessing for me because they took me over to Cascade Youth Organization, which our games were played at Adams Park. So in my first year playing baseball, I was with the Cascade Youth Organization Braves, and my head baseball coach was Emmett Johnson. Emmett Johnson was the Atlanta Public Schools Board of Education chairman. So that came with a lot of power in the city. So as a result of the relationship with him, I was able to move through the city in a very different way, even though I didn't come from a family that was highly educated or a part of fraternities and sororities. As a child, I remember going to games and being a part of opening day ceremonies where Maynard Jackson would be present, Hank Aaron, Hosea Williams, John Lewis. This is during the time when John Lewis was a part of city council. He wasn't even a congressman. Maynard Jackson. So for me to read about the civil rights movement in books and then to go to the baseball field and see these people, it gave me a sense of hope that even as a child, I was saying I want to play professional baseball for the Chicago Cubs. I had my first workout with the Cubs at 14, got drafted twice by the Cubs, and played in the Cubs organization. So I was able to be that focused because of what I was exposed to, and so baseball gave that to me.
So you seem to come at this, this problem of racism from maybe a slightly different perspective than just you're black, I'm white, more around the economic disparity that exists in a city like Atlanta. So this is obviously a chicken versus an egg problem. Sort of where does this start? But you both explained to me a program that you have where you take kids on baseball teams from, let's say, two different realities, two economic realities, and put them together to learn about the others day to day. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, the Human Ambassador
Yeah, you're
Project.
talking about the Human Ambassador Project, yeah.
Can you explain that project?
So the Human Ambassador Project is rooted in the common ground. So we have our baseball players who are our ambassadors from various Atlanta public school high schools, our young men who have grown up in generational poverty, and we connect them with students in various independent schools around Metro Atlanta, Westminster, Lovett,
Marist, Ward Academy.
Yeah. So we connect them using baseball as the common ground, understanding that they have very different experiences in life, but bringing them together with baseball helps them to see that, first of all, we're just a bunch of kids who really love to play baseball. We like to throw the baseball around, that type of thing. But there are also some very crucial issues in this city that need to be solved. And the way things are structured right now, people are looking at the kids from the private school to be the leaders and to solve the problems of this city. What we are telling our ambassadors is, you are also going to be the leaders who are going to solve these problems in the city. No matter how much people are overlooking you for just charity, issues, we're saying that we view you as the leaders of this city. So we want to combine those two groups to help them understand that we, LEAD, we're counting on you all to come together to bring your different perspectives to the table of leadership to fix what's going on in this city. Because if we don't have equitable leadership at the table, the problems will continue to be the same as they have been. You are going to have Black people struggling by and large in this city if we don't have more Black leadership from a sense of Black people who are poor. I'm not talking about the Black middle class or the Black bourgeois. I mean, those segments of Black folks have done very well in the city of Atlanta. I'm talking about Black, poor people. We need to have a pipeline of leadership coming from children in this city who people would consider the least of these, or just consider them charity cases. We don't look at them like that. We were those kids, right? And look at what we've been able to accomplish in spite of our circumstances. So we see those same things for them, and we want them to go even farther than we could ever imagine. But they can't do that if they don't have the platform to do that, and that's what LEAD does.
And so also the Human Ambassador Project was created from my 2015 Leadership Atlanta experience, where we had a race day with L.E.A.D, and I just remember going through that entire day with my colleagues from the public sector, private sector, and nonprofit sector here in Atlanta, very powerful people. There were moments when I was freezing cold, moments I was burning up hot. I was just an emotional wreck. And I just remember trying to do my best to explain to Kelly what I experienced. This is beyond just what you could read about, but it was an experience. And so, Kelly was challenging me and us to make sure that Black boys don't have to wait till they're 40 years old to experience that. So you can read about it, but you got to have an experience. So with the support of several others, we had a small group of people that helped us come up with the Human Ambassador Project. What's also important about the Human Ambassador Project is baseball was used to help Atlanta prove that we were a city too busy to hate. So the late Bill Bartholomew, along with 399 other white men, for a total of 400, the Braves 400, brought the Braves from Milwaukee to Atlanta before we even had a stadium erected, and bringing them along with Hank Aaron, a black man who, being in Atlanta, would have to live somewhere. And for all intents and purposes, they made sure that he was able to live anywhere he wanted to live in the Jim Crow South, allowed us to prove that we were more progressive than Birmingham, Charlotte, Memphis. So it's one thing to have this mantra, but it's another thing to have some action. And so the Atlanta Braves allowed us to come together. And then I'll also just say the power of baseball. Right now, you know, our Fulton County Sheriff, Patrick Labatt, played baseball at Frederick Douglass High School. Rodney Bryant, who's the chief of police for Atlanta Police Department, played baseball at Sylvan Hills High School. Andre Dickens, who's a city councilman, played baseball at Benjamin Elijah Mays High School. And then even Kwanzaa Hall, who was recently running for the late John Lewis's seat, played baseball at Mays High School. So, you know, baseball is an important sport, and it's also a fraternity that even as you come across, and if you're a poor black boy and you're engaged with a very rich and powerful white man and y'all play baseball, that's a conversation that you can have that can bring some common ground. You are a part of the fraternity because you played this sport.
So I think you just answered what was going to be my question. I like to think that the running community is overperforming in the area of race relations and understanding racism. I don't have any metrics to measure that. It just feels as if this is especially here in Atlanta, a good place to be to learn about what your common ground is with someone from a different race. With baseball, how would you say the world of baseball is with respect to the conversation of race and racism? You say you have that common ground because, hey, you share that same field, you share that same dugout and so forth? Or are there real significant challenges and problems in baseball?
I think the major challenge is just the fact that black boys do not receive the benefit of the doubt when it comes down to being allowed to compete at the college level or professional level. And then if they receive the benefit of the doubt, now it's a matter of, will you show them respect? And then if they receive the benefit of the doubt and they're shown respect, then will you trust them? And so my job and our job, you know, is gaining power. I mean, I see the Atlanta Track Club as being a powerful institution, and we have an opportunity to sit here with you. And so in gaining that power, then we empower these black boys, and so now they are allowed to gain the benefit of doubt, respect, and trust. And so ultimately, even right here in this facility in the west end of Atlanta, you know, people ride by and they look in and they're looking like, if I can read their minds, it's like, is this really a batting facility? Like, I mean, is this a museum, or actually do they train in here? And we do training here. But there will be college coaches that will come in here that are going to give black boys the benefit of the doubt, respect, and trust, and then they will then be able to launch those educational opportunities and live a life of significance through the sport of baseball. So that's just the issue. It's not about, are there enough black boys participating in the game? The issue is that it's not enough of them receiving the benefit of the doubt, respect, and trust.
And to that point, we have to make sure that we are teaching our boys how to deal with that situation. Because you're told if you just work hard, put your head down, do the right things, you'll be successful. Well, there are far too many stories of black people who worked hard, kept their head down, and did the right thing, who were not able to achieve or who were blocked from opportunities and success. And if you don't know how to call that out or know what that is, and know that you're actually up against that kind of fight, you can begin to think things negatively about yourself. You know, I did everything I was supposed to do, but I still didn't get this opportunity. And so in a lot of ways, our boys are fighting a fight that they aren't aware even exists. You know, you think about how we are taught in our K through 12 educational system. We are not taught true, and we've condensed our whole civil rights, the whole Black experience to the civil rights movement only, and it's so much bigger and so much broader than that. And so when they get a chance to come in here, and through the sport of baseball, we're able to teach them about their history. We're able to teach them about not just Dr. King, but all the other civil rights leaders, and even the female Black leaders, Shirley Chisholm, just, people who they have never probably heard about, to help them understand in totality what they're really up against, so that when they do leave Lead and they graduate from high school or wherever they go and they get into the career that they want to be in, they know how to spot those things out. We talk about being college and career ready. Well, college and career ready for a Black person is different than it is for a white person, because you can be college and career ready as a Black person and run into issues with systemic racism that can still keep you down and can still block you from opportunities. And if you don't have a framework of how to deal with that and how to approach it, you're not going to have a successful career.
Are issues like this spoken about with the young men in your program, or no, we're just helping you with the day-to-day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to call them out. As CJ talks about distinctions, I mean, we have to be specific and we have to be distinct. But the way we call them out is through specific programming, like our core value training. One of the main curriculum that we use in our core value training is called Habitudes. It's a curriculum that uses images to teach the habits and attitudes of successful leaders. So through our core value training and using these habitudes, we're able to call these things out. We're able to call racism out. We're able to open up the door of discussion about these things so that we can teach it to them in a context that they can readily grasp and understand. This generation today, if you just talking, and if you telling them to read and it's a bunch of text, they're gonna zoom out because they're so multimedia with all of the social media they have. So the habitudes, being able to use those habitudes images helps them to comprehend and retain the lessons and the messages we're sending to them.
Got it. And I think it's important as well too, the fact that we are year round with them. I think some of the things that trips them up is how we approach things from a very simple, practical standpoint. Well, with life being so complex, sometimes I think they have a hard time when they first start of even trusting what we're saying, because it's like, that's way too simple, which is why us being a year-round organization, and we're not just meeting with them one day a week, is very important, because mentorship is one thing, and I happen to believe that Black youth in this city are over-mentored and under-sponsored. And sponsorship is, now that I've trained you and I've taught you, now I'm going to create opportunities for you that you aren't quite ready for, nor do you deserve. And so those are some of the things that's happening for kids in more affluent communities, where they go through their mentorship process, they get some apprenticeship, they get some internship, but they know for a fact that they're going to be sponsored. So we have to make sure that we're spending a consistent amount of time with these Black boys that are struggling with poverty.
Can you say that again? So over-mentored but under-sponsored. And by sponsored, you mean opportunity, right?
Yes. Over-mentored, I mean, that's one of the things that that's really easy to do at a participatory level, is to, hey, let's go out and let's mentor some kids. I mean, a lot of people want to do it because it's pretty easy to do, and that's great. It should be done. However, there's a graduation that must also happen, a promise that when I do everything that you've asked me to do, I've shown up, I've improved, that you're going to create opportunities for me that I'm not ready for, nor do I deserve. And those are some of the things that are happening, like I said, for kids in other parts of the city from affluent communities. And that's what we get an opportunity to do. Kelly created our career apprentice training program, which allows our ambassador alums to then come and work for us. Now, I know that they enjoy spending time with me, but they call Kelly coach as well. She is in the process now finalizing a Handle Your Business curriculum, which is very important, because I know even for me, when we got married, it was a lot of stuff that I should have known as far as handling my business that I didn't know that she knew.
Both of us, we should. But I appreciate that.
But it's just one of the things where, again, I've been mentored. That's great. Okay, now what? That sponsorship piece is, even when you're out here and you're making mistakes, my name is attached to yours. I'm going to make sure you get the benefit of the doubt when you mess up. I'm going to make sure that you're respected when you mess up. And I'm going to make sure that you are trusted even when you mess up.
And another illustration of that is, in the youth development world, people love to say, well, we provide financial literacy. Well, financial literacy is great, but are you also giving me an opportunity to make some money so that I have some money to actually manage? So for us, as CJ was talking about, our Ambassador Career Training Program, we have an opportunity for paid internship opportunities even for our juniors and seniors in high school, as well as our alums, because we want to teach you how to handle money, but we also want to give you an opportunity to earn some money so you can actually apply what we've been teaching you. So there's the mentorship, but there's actually the sponsorship opportunity where we are entrusting a piece of our programming to you as an intern, because how can I tell, Coca-Cola or Georgia's Own Credit Union that you're going to make a great employee for them when we haven't put you to the test in our own organization?
So to change directions for a second, the Atlanta Track Club says that we believe the sport should be universally accessible. And the events of the last few months, shine a spotlight on the fact that it's just not. And it's specifically not for people of color, specifically men of color. And a board member of the track club has shared his story with me. He has a PhD and works for the CDC. But when he walks out the door to go for a run, he fears for his safety because he is concerned that someone might not recognize him as a runner as he's running down the street at 5 o'clock in the morning. So knowing that we've got some work ahead of us, I guess where I'm going with this is why is it today the sport is not universally accessible? Why is it when a black person is running down the street, that person can't feel safe here in Atlanta, in what I consider to be Running City, USA? That's what we call it. So a runner-friendly city.
So the statement again, origin stories matter. We always tend to open the book to the middle or towards the end of the book when we talk about racism and race relations, and we're not properly educated on how we got to where we are. Blackness has been criminalized in this country from the beginning. When you have people in your society who you have deemed that are only valuable from a labor standpoint to you, and you have memorialized their race in a way, we can call it that their legacy in this country is in chattel slavery, like not even a real human being. As Dr. King said, when you thingify something, you don't have to care about it. When it becomes a thing, you don't have to care about it. You don't have to think about its future. All you have to do is think about what can that thing do for you. And that's what black people have been in America. So when you get to 2020, it's no surprise how black life is just so expendable, because that is the history of black life, in America. And we have to come to grips with that. We have to accept that. That's not a Democratic view. That's not a Republican view. That I don't care what type of religion you are. That is just the truth. We're not going to say facts because alternative facts and all that stuff. We're going to say truth because the truth don't change. You feel what I'm saying? Facts may change. Like I always tell my girls, when I was in school, Pluto was a planet. And that was a fact. It's no longer a fact, right? So, but the truth stays the same. And so with that, our job, the responsibility that we have when it comes to sport-based youth development is to be an advocate for our boys. So sport has stopped in many communities. Most of those communities are poor inner city communities. They still playing baseball up north in Cobb County and in Buckhead. They found a way because they're going to advocate for their kids.
You're talking in a COVID environment.
I'm talking about in a COVID environment,
Got it.
yes.
Okay.
They're still going to advocate for their kids to have access to sport, whatever it is. Whatever accommodations have to be made, we're going to make sure our kids have access to it. That's what we do for our boys in L.E.A.D. We make sure that they have whatever accommodations we need to have. We advocate for them. We stand in the gaps for them. If we're at a park, and we're not supposed to be at a park, but we're going to be at a park working out and training for baseball, then we're going to be the go-between between them and whoever's going to tell us to get off the field. That's what's happening up north. But who is willing to stand up for black kids, for black poor kids? And that's what we're doing.
And then I think about, when you talk about the running and, why black people are, looked at in such a negative light. And, from a distinction standpoint, that either has to, what Kelly just said, that either has to convict you or cause guilt. If you are guilty, if you feel guilty as a result of the truth, then that's going to paralyze you. If you are convicted, then it's going to empower you. So, our challenge is to convict people, to get you then now connected to the truth. I feel like we are moving to a place where people are going to have to make a decision on what side of the truth they're on. The truth is what it is, and we're now starting to get more people, especially white people, that are starting to say, you know what, this is the truth, I feel convicted, I'm now going to act. And so now for us as black people, we're not just sitting over here, like we're complaining and so on and so forth. So we actually have some very strong allies because of common ground. So I think that's where we are right now is what Kelly said. Do you feel convicted or do you feel guilty? We want you to feel convicted and empowered to act.
You keep sort of stealing the answers to my questions before I ask them. That's a great way to frame it up in terms of the conviction. There certainly is a fear from what I'll call just middle-class white America, sort of the 50-year-old white guys, when you say you feel convicted, like I've done something wrong. And what you're saying is, if I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but what I'm saying is you need to own it. You need to own the fact that you're white. You need to own the fact that you have some privilege. And until you own that, you are part of the problem.
And I think that is so important, because when we do talk about race, one of the main things that we talk about is, you and I are both in this room. Neither one of us is 150 or 200 years old. There are issues that were created by people who had some very bad intentions, and whether we like it or not, we're stuck with the results.
Yeah.
So when we talk about being convicted, it's not convicted like you did it. It's convicted like this is the world we have, and it's awful on so many levels. And it's our responsibility as co-inhabitants of this world to make it better.
Yeah. So one of my fellow Leadership Atlanta classmates, Dr. Kofi Smith, he said, with regards to race relations, Kofi is an African-American man, and his comment to white people is, it's not your fault, but it is your fight. And I think that's what we got to really focus on is, even for us, we primarily focus on baseball. We love sports. So even when it comes down to black boys being able to be engaged with track and being a part of the Peachtree Road Race and things that are so nostalgic and a part of the city, we are going to fight to make sure that they are a part of everything that's great in this city, even though we're partial to baseball. So it is with regards to race, it's not your fault, but it is your fight, and that's what we got to focus on.
And one of my mentors, Farlone Toussaint, said to me, we don't want white people to be allies, because that implies that this is a fight that we have as black people and you're coming over to help us. We need you to be soldiers on the front line with us. This is all of our fight. I don't want an ally. I want a fellow soldier who's in this same fight that I'm in, understanding that racism hurts us all. Even it, in the end, it just hurts us all.
That's powerful. The track club is making investments of time and resources in Atlanta Public Schools now, much like you are. You're farther ahead than we are in your efforts. What do you see as the headwinds that we will face as we try to invest in kids, and in this case, many kids who are poor kids, as we introduce track and field and running to them?
I think the important thing is just to start from a place of protection. It's just ensuring that black children within Atlanta Public Schools knows that Atlanta Track Club is going to protect them. So if they're going to make the sacrifice of their time and their energy and discipline themselves to become runners, whether it's to get a college scholarship or be able to do it to maintain a healthy lifestyle, are they going to be protected? I mean, I know even for me, as I go through my training, I feel like even with the training that I'm getting from you all to prepare for the Peachtree Road Race, that I'm not going to be doing something that's going to cause me to get hurt and then I can't work. So protection, and so that's where we start. That's the tip of the spear for us. The promise that we're making is that we are going to protect you.
I think you also have to understand the costs that are involved when you're asking a young person who's coming from the environment that our boys are coming from, and that most students in Atlanta Public School, 80% of APS students live at or below the poverty level. So what costs are incurred when they show up for your program? A lot of our kids are vital parts of their family. They babysit after school, or they cook meals. So you might have to think about, if you really want this child to be a part of your program, you might have to tell them, yeah, you can bring your little sister. You know what I'm saying? Because if not, he can't leave his little sister at home. And we have that situation come up a lot for us. We have a young man who is a vital part of his family. He has younger siblings that he has to take care of. And it was like, if we really want him to be a part of our program, we're also going to have to make a way for his sister to come. So, that's 2 MARTA cards. So both of them can get there. And maybe that's enlisting the help of some of our parents, our moms, to watch his little sister while he's practicing. So just consider all the costs, that are incurred by youth to show up for programs.
Got it. Yeah, good stuff. So, as we wrap this up, and you've been very generous with your time, a few months ago, Atlanta Track Club, after George Floyd was murdered, we struggle. Keep in mind, the Track Club is what I believe to be the most racially diverse running organization in the country. But we still fall short of sort of matching sort of the overall demographics of the Atlanta metro area. So we've got some work ahead of us. As I said, we didn't know what to say or what to do. As every organization, every corporation looked for what to say, and I'm sure you got an email from every company you ever did business with sort of, over those few weeks. We opted not to say anything on social media, but we sent an email to our members and said that we were going to do what we're doing right now. Slow down, put together an action plan, but that we believe that Black Lives Matter. And as you might imagine, that elicited quite a response.
Right.
Because it immediately brought us into a partisan political conversation, which is not what we wanted to do. We wanted to simply state the fact that Black Lives Matter. And it was a great learning experience for me, because I got all of those response emails. We sent them to 33,000 people. I think I was able to teach some people some things. I learned a ton, but there's still a very small number of people who refuse to see beyond the words Black Lives Matter and the called the political connotation that they have. There's a question here eventually. Here.
I got you.
Are we going to get to a point, and you guys, if nothing else, strike me as realists, Are we gonna get to the point in our lifetime here in Atlanta, as we are making the track and field and the running community as good as possibly can be, and as you are using baseball to do the same for the next generation poor Atlanta kid, are we gonna get to the point where we can all say that Black Lives Matter without everyone running into a corner and trying to guard their territory?
So I don't think so, because, you know, you're always going to have that political division. I really hate our two-party political system in this country anyway, because, you know, I have views on both sides, and I don't, you know, so I think we aren't going to get to that point. To that point, what I always say is we have to do all we can to mitigate racism and not eradicate it. I mean, I don't see it going anywhere. It's just too deeply ingrained into who we are and as a nation. So when I think about nationalism, I automatically think of white supremacy here. And I mean, those things are intertwined for me. The best thing we can do to combat that, though, is education. And to that point of you saying people were calling it, one of the best pieces of advice I think I've been able to give to friends of ours who are white who've called is, you have to do the work yourself as well. I cannot be the encyclopedia, the dictionary, the rule of thought for you on this, partly because I'm having to unlearn and relearn some things, you know, about Black people and our whole existence, and understanding that the existence of Black people didn't start in slavery in America, you know? So reading is good, you know, asking your Black friends, what are you reading? That helps you get the prior knowledge, you know what I'm saying, that you need to be able to have productive conversations. But I can say all day, Black Lives Matter is not a political thing. We're talking about the actual Black lives, you know? And to its origin, the ladies who created that slogan weren't talking about Democrats or Republicans or independents. They were talking about their bodies. Our bodies, our Black Lives Matter.
I feel very hopeful. I feel like we will get to a place in my lifetime where Black Lives Matter goes beyond just being a mantra and something that is adopted as a form of action. I mean, even for me, you know, I don't have a college degree. I don't come from a family that is, you know, civil rights leaders and a part of the top fraternities. Basically, I don't come from the Black bourgeois. I come from the residue of this city, and here I am right now, sitting on an Atlanta Track Club bench with you, and we're talking about, we're using the word Black Lives Matter. We're not trying to be politically correct with it. I'm in a position as a Black man that is married, 2 beautiful children, and leading Black boys to become leaders in the city, inclusive of white people, not just exclusive. So when I think about this city, when I think about the thing that has to happen, there's this divide between poor Blacks and affluent whites. And the thing that sits in the middle is the Black bourgeois, the Black middle class. And I believe that once we get to a place where we can seamlessly, which is what we're focusing on with L.E.A.D, of getting Black boys that are poor to not have to navigate all these different things to get over here to the affluence and the influence, then we're going to be fine. And we are doing things right now to make sure that that happens unapologetically. We are called to do it. And you know what? I'm sure even some things that we have said, even right now in this conversation with you, is going to be challenged by white people, Black people, and quite frankly, that's what we need. I mean, it's things get real simple when it starts out complex and it's challenged. We have dialogue. See that common ground, and then work within our calling to get things done.
And I think I just want to applaud you guys on what you're doing with this whole common ground piece, because one of our pillars is civic engagement. And again, running is not baseball. However, the Peachtree Road Race is an iconic event globally. And that's how you build civic engagement in a person. You get them involved in the traditions of their community. And this is a tremendous tradition in the Atlanta community. But it's something that our boys would have never thought to engage in, would have never thought that it was for them. So you guys putting a stake in the ground and doing this Common Ground series is very important to making sure that all Atlantans know that the Peachtree Road Race is for them.
Thank you for those kind words. And we've got C.J. on the track to run Peachtree. We've got a group of your young men who are going to do it. You're our next target, Kelly. In July 4th, 2021. Love to see you on the streets of Peachtree.
Yeah, so actually I'm not a runner, I'm the jogger in the family. I don't even know if you want to call what I do jogging. It's something. It's not walking, but it's a combination of walking and running. But I was actually the one, when I met CJ, I used to run 20 miles a week at least, 25 miles a week when we first met. That was 2 children ago, and
there's a lot of muscle memory there.
It is. So yeah, I'll take that challenge.
Good.
I'll take that challenge.
So to wrap us up, you said it better than I could. It is not your job, Kelly or CJ, your job as a black woman and a black man to tell the white guy on what to do here. But as leaders of our respective organizations in Atlanta, I do think it's reasonable that we constantly check each other.
Absolutely.
And I would love it as we put together our action plan, if you would be willing to take a look at it and let us know what you think is heading in the right direction and what you think might still need some work.
Absolutely. Consider it done.
Absolutely.
Good. Thanks for taking the time and good luck with this great new facility.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Yep.